I'm Massie. I'm a director here at CEDR, been here for the best part of 25, 30 years. I'm also the primary author and researcher of the CEDR Mediation Audit, which we do every couple of years. Mm-hmm. I'm probably uniquely qualified to do this work, which is why I've never been able to delegate it to anybody else, because I'm a fellow of the Civil Mediation Council, a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants, and also a fellow of the Royal Statistical Society.
That's magnificent.
So mediation and numbers is my thing.
That's brilliant, Graham. I'm Kelly Stricklin-Coutinho. I'm chair of the Civil Mediation Council. I'm also in practice as a barrister and as a mediator at 39 Essex Chambers, and of course on CEDR's panel and faculty of trainers.
So the first thing we looked into was the
Yes.
the size and shape of the market, which we've tried to track every 2 years since 2003.
Yes.
So the first headline is that the field is continuing to grow.
Fantastic.
So 17,000 mediations in England and Wales last time. This year, 21,000. So 24% growth over the last 2 years.
Yes.
So we've clearly recovered from the doldrums of the pandemic.
Yes.
And the field is growing again significantly.
It's wonderful news.
The shape of the market probably not changed significantly.
Right.
So about 30% of those cases I mentioned come under the category of organised schemes, where one organisation has set them up.
Yes.
And they tend to go through providers. Of the balance, about 60% of ad hoc cases are going direct to mediators.
Right.
With the remainder going to providers.
Right.
So and those figures, those percentage splits have been fairly consistent over the years. So there's not a lot of new information there.
Sure.
What is not changing is the overall mix, the demographics of mediators.
Right.
It's still being consistent in terms of professional background. Still up, particularly amongst the advanced group, there's quite a high proportion of lawyers.
Right.
So about 61% of advanced mediators come from legal background. Interestingly, at lower levels, low experience levels,
yes,
far fewer mediators. I'd like to think that means that there are more non-lawyers looking to get into the field.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Less positive, it may mean that the non-lawyer mediators are not progressing so quickly.
Yes.
I don't know the answer to that.
Yes.
We're trying to get to the bottom of that.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other aspects remain the same, frankly.
Right.
Most mediators look like me.
Right.
White, male, over 60.
Right.
It's fair to say that female representation within the profession has grown or has picked up markedly over the years.
Yes.
So it's now got to about 40% of our respondents are female mediators.
Right. Yep.
Which is very positive.
Yes, absolutely.
We've not got to the full level of where the Law Society solicitors are.
Yes.
The female representation there is about 55%. So we've got a little bit more work to catch up.
Yes.
But we're getting there.
Yeah.
We're nowhere really on ethnic diversity.
Right.
So we've been in the doldrums at sort of 7 or 8% ethnic representation for so many periods now. I highlight this in every single audit. I'm afraid it's still the same.
Right.
So there's definitely an area of action.
Something to be done there. It's very good to hear and to recognise that progress has been made in terms of the number of mediations that are happening, particularly given recent developments. But I think from my perspective, it's essential that we do more. I think it's also worth reflecting on the fact that our traditional benchmark, so looking at the solicitor's profession, is a very sensible benchmark. But ultimately, that benchmark is also a profession with its own challenges when it comes to these sorts of areas. And I always reflect on the fact that we tend to recruit from professions which themselves face some challenges in this area. And so it's quite important from the CMC perspective that we think about this. We've been thinking about this, as you know, we've recently launched our strategy. And one of the things we're really careful about is trying to make sure that whatever we do doesn't compound privilege that already exists. And the second thing that we're thinking about is taking sensible steps where we can to improve some of these statistics that you've just explained. And for us, that's around potential guidelines, about the use of a wider pool of people in mediation and how to be as inclusive as you can, and then also some initiatives. But I agree with you, Graham. These statistics really demonstrate that there is a piece of work to be done here, and I really hope that the work that we're doing can contribute to that.
I agree. Yeah, that's really good to hear. And I'd probably just add, it's not just I made a big point about ethnic diversity. age diversity.
Yes.
There are not very many young, lower middle-aged people
Right.
in the mediation profession. I think there's much more that we could do there.
Quite.
Because certainly when we do training with young people,
Yes.
we see a lot of talent.
Yes.
And we're told by law firms that they are looking and interested in hearing about new talent.
Yes.
We need to do more work to give those people opportunities.
Absolutely. And it's an interesting one. I know we're going to come on a little bit later to some of the other statistics around figures and so on. But I think it's also worth reflecting that many mediators will retire from another profession and then become a mediator part of the time. So there are some challenges also for younger mediators coming into a profession where it may take a little while to build up their mediator practice.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
So let's move on
Yes.
to outcomes. So outcomes for ourselves as mediators and outcomes for clients.
Yes.
So in terms of outcomes for clients, traditionally the settlement rate is the main headline figure.
Yes.
We talk about it. To be fair, it's not the only value that's delivered by mediation.
Of course.
But it's clearly an important metric.
It is.
So we ask mediators what percentage of their cases settle
Yes.
on the day and then within the sort of shortly after the mediation.
Mm-hmm.
Those figures tend to continue to be very strong. So mediators report 70% of cases settle on the day, and another 17% settling within the sort of days immediately thereafter.
Super.
So an overall settlement rate of 87% coming out of mediation.
Which is fantastic.
It's really good. It's not quite as high as the 92% that we reported 2 years ago.
Yep.
But I'm going to put that down to a statistical anomaly. This is only a sample, albeit it's a sample from over 400 mediators.
Yes.
But there's always a little bit of variation.
Yes, of course.
And line is it's still great.
And it's still significant, yeah, absolutely.
In terms of what mediators are getting out of this, satisfaction, fee income, we've tracked this right from the beginning as well.
Yes.
For a typical one-day mediation, advanced mediators now average earnings just over £4,000
right.
for that case.
Yeah.
Less experienced mediators, rather lower, at about £1,600. Mm-hmm. The advanced mediator figure has gone up slightly since last time. The less advanced mediator figure of 1,600, that's gone down by about 10% over the last year.
That's interesting.
So that may suggest that there's even more price competition in the marketplace than we've seen in the past.
Yes.
I hope we're not in a rush to the bottom.
Quite.
And we should not be competing on price. We should be competing on quality.
Yes.
Because that's what the focus should be.
Yeah.
There are, however, still huge variations in daily rates and how much
right.
people are charging for these cases.
Okay.
So about 10% of mediators are primarily doing pro bono work and charging or charging no more than £500 a day.
Right.
At the other end of the spectrum, there are a couple of 2-3% of mediators earning over £10,000 for a single one-day mediation.
Yeah.
And all of the ranges in between, let's get back to the average I mentioned.
Yes.
So there's a huge disparity. So what the mediation audit will do is it provides a table of what all the individual bands and where people are. Yes. So any mediator will be able to sort of compare themselves to the marketplace and see where they fit in on the ladder.
Yes.
Charging.
Which, if you don't mind me saying, I mean, it strikes me that it's really important that these figures are available because I think when mediators come into the market afresh in particular, it can feel quite opaque to work out what you might expect to earn, how to price, etc. And there is obviously, as you say, a real variety of earnings there, which is very interesting. What I take from this is that mediators are providing real value. That's what that settlement rate is about. When matters do come to mediation, they tend to go very well. Yeah. And I think from my perspective, it's really important that we price accordingly. We're providing value, we price accordingly. And so, as you all know, Graham, the CMC is working hard to do what we can to increase the amount of work there is. And we're also encouraging and advocating for the greater use of mediation in, other areas than is currently there is. But ultimately, as I say, I think it's important that we recognise that there is real value in what we do and that we charge for it as appropriate.
I completely agree. I think for a long time I've heard so many mediators tell me that they're the ones delivering the value and they're probably the lowest paid person in the room.
Yes.
And also they're on their own, from their teams of lawyers representing each of the parties. So it would be nice to get more recognition of the value
yes.
the mediators deliver.
Yeah, Absolutely.
Not just the money terms, but actually just in terms of people recognising that it's an incredibly valuable tool.
Yes.
And can do so much more than what we're currently doing.
Yes.
Because we're starting to slip into the paradigm of the one-day model and one-day mediation.
Yeah.
And the mediation skill set can be applicable in so many other areas as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
So try to beat that drum as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And we just produced something, as it happens, on some of those wider uses of mediation skills. So, deal mediation or project mediation, all of these things, which actually developments recently mean that the doors are opening to mediation being used in a much more creative and much earlier way. So it's not necessarily even about, resolving a conflict when it's crystallized, but it's doing something productive well before it gets to that stage.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just to sort of round out on money, one of the other things that always captures interest right back in, because in the early days of the mediation audit, we used to do this at a big conference.
Yes.
The thing that always going to freeze on in the audience was the level of earnings by individual mediators. So, mediators undertaking over 50 cases a year.
Yes.
Their earnings range from 305,000 to 770,000 a year.
Right.
And obviously those figures have moved up since inflation.
Yes.
But I still remember back in 2003, that headline number was still very big.
Yes.
In fact, it was so big that at the coffee break after I delivered my presentation, a very well-known, very respected mediator came up to me to assure me that it wasn't him. That's the highest paid mediator in the field. So the second half of the audit covers hot topics.
Right.
Probably the hottest topic in the mediation field in the last couple of years has been Churchill.
Yes. Yes.
I'm not going to presume to talk about Churchill, given that you were a counsel on the case. So, do you want to talk about Churchill?
Sure.
The implications.
So, in terms of things that have happened and the data that you've got, about 60% of mediators so far are reporting having seen actually no change yet, either in inquiries, appointments, or interest in mediation. But the remainder of the people that you surveyed are generally seeing positive signs, although still early signs of increased activity. And I think I would just reflect that really does, that seems very similar to the things that we're seeing elsewhere, like, for example, the potential reductions of county court backlogs and so on, where there might be some early signs, but we're not quite there. A similar 60% of mediators are expecting that Churchill will have a positive impact on their practices. And some believe that the growth that's likely to happen will be at the lower bands rather than the higher bands, because it's thought that there'll be more work in the sort of the county court schemes or other low fee schemes, which is interesting. There is also a bit of doubt, I think it's fair to reflect, on whether Churchill will have any impact on the higher value cases, given that those largely are market driven anyway. But I think you and I both know, of course, there was that recent Superdry case, which was of significant value, and the very arguments were made there that actually this is complicated and all of the other reasons you might not want it to go to a mediation, and it duly settled, which was very interesting. So it may be our experience at the CMC and the areas in which we're advocating is for increased use actually at multiple levels. I would also just reflect that actually some of the changes that have happened since Churchill, like the changes to the CPR, the power is obviously in the overriding objective, but it has recently been added into the commercial courts provisions, both the London court and the circuit courts. So there is plainly some interest in seeing if these powers can be used in future in higher value cases. And it wouldn't surprise me there again if the judiciary feel that actually there are cases which really should be mediated even at that higher level.
Yeah, I suspect that in a few years' time, looking back, the significance of Churchill will not be the particular point about human rights.
Yes.
It will be the fact that the judgment represented or demonstrated an attitude of mind and is starting to prompt a country change.
Yes.
And it's prompted so many other developments, as you say, subsequently.
Yes.
Those will be the things that actually...
Yeah. I have to say, I see Churchill as a starting point. Yeah.
So the second hot topic we talked about,
yes,
the mediators to tell us about, was just this whole question about developing their careers.
Yes.
Over the years, we have seen the typical pyramid develop within the profession, of there being fewer people at the top that get the work, a bit like barristers' profession.
Yes.
And then a larger base who are still looking to move up.
Yes.
Or, in my terms, oversupply in the marketplace, oversupply of mediators. The good news is that there's a lot of talent and a lot of availability and people willing and, frankly, really keen to get more work.
Yes.
So that's positive.
Yes.
The challenge has always been to generate the work
Yes.
for them.
Yes.
So really with the demand side has always been important.
Yes.
But what I also wanted to look at this year in the audit was the competitive issue of how do individual mediators aspiring to develop their careers, what do they do?
Yes.
How do they make themselves stand out in a crowded marketplace?
Yes.
So we asked a lot of questions about how many years does it take to get started after you're accredited?
Yes.
So we asked mediators how long did it take to get your first 5 appointments?
Right. Okay.
And then how long did it take you to get from 5 to 10?
Yes.
What we saw was that about 70% of mediators, it took 3 years
Yes.
to get your first 5.
Yeah.
About half of that percentage, they were getting to 10 within that sort of period of time.
Yeah.
But it's not overnight by any means.
No.
For anybody. It still requires a lot of slog.
Yes.
We ask people what it is that actually gets them appointments. Professional reputation, status, who you know, your contacts.
Yeah.
And it was all the things that mediators actually are probably bringing to the table from their previous lives.
Yes.
That seems to be how people get started.
Yeah.
If you can get your foot in the door with a provider, providers can certainly provide some assistance.
Yes.
By having access to schemes cases and by starting to support and work with people.
Yeah.
But if somebody does not fall into either of those two categories, is down to the shoe leather and doing the rounds of their own network and trying to do as much promotion as they can.
Yeah.
And frankly, some mediators are doing that and are being quite proactive in trying to progress their careers.
Yes.
There's also quite a lot of mediators though that sort of think it's not really me. Mm-hmm. So there's a reticence to sort of promote oneself.
Yes.
I think it's going to be difficult to move in one's career forward in that type of situation at the moment.
Yes. Yeah.
There's a little bit of work, a little bit of recommendations. Recommendations and referrals is good. Mm-hmm. But things like websites, directories, marketing, not the mediators at least perceive not a lot of value in doing those things. It doesn't mean that people don't.
Yes.
But but really it's about promoting oneself.
Yes.
And the more people can find a niche or something to make themselves stand out from the crowd, the better.
Yeah. It's really interesting that you have asked that question. I think really helpful that you've asked that question, because one of the things that we see at the CMC is newly qualified mediators often really struggle to get going. And certainly the feedback that we have is that it takes a little while to get going, that people might need to continue doing another job while they're getting their first appointments and so on. And we know that some of our newer members do get frustrated about how long it takes. So even though these statistics are not particularly cheering, I think it is helpful to understand what the reality is of the market as people start out. So we know it's hard to get started, and these figures do show that. Some of the things that we're working on at the moment are around practice development support. I know, for example, that at CEDR there are things that you do as follow-on programs for people who've qualified through you, and all of that support and that sense of community is very helpful, I think. And as I said earlier, we're obviously advocating for greater use of mediation to provide more opportunities. But that piece around what it is we do to develop our own practices, I think, is very interesting. And I suppose I would just reflect that it's probably similar in other professions. Mm-hmm. At the bar, you have some barristers who like to go out and develop their practices, and there are others who are more used to waiting for their practice managers to develop the practice for them. So there is a range of different ways of doing things.
I completely agree. I would suggest though that if you grow up in a barrister's chambers or in a law firm,
yes,
you're in an environment, there is an infrastructure around you,
yes,
which can provide support.
Yes.
As mediators, it's rather more of a solo
Yes.
thing. So there's not the usual support mechanisms in place
Yes.
for people.
Yeah.
And that's challenging.
Yeah, I agree with that. And actually, that's another area that we're quite active at the moment, because it seems to me important that mediators might need a bit of support around all of those structural things you were talking about. So
I think the other consequence, or the other implication of this recognition of how difficult it is to get started,
yes,
is there's a slight tendency to lead to resentment that all the work is going to certain people,
yes,
and that it feels a bit like a closed shop.
yes,
I don't think that's true, but I think there's still work to be done in that area.
yes,
I think we've now got beyond. 20 years ago, we used to talk about mediation being a cottage industry and a part-time
yes,
thing. It's not like that anymore. It is a proper profession,
yes,
and it is plausible and reasonable, and there are a lot of people being very successful as full-time mediators.
yes,
So it can be done.
yes,
But the question is, how does one break into
yes,
that group?
yes,
One mediator in the survey suggested we may be sort of falling into a two-tier profession, that there was lots of competition at the sort of middle and lower end of the market,
yes,
but you had to sort of work hard to get you in with a provider or in with clients
yes,
to compete against the others.
yes,
But at the higher end of the market, law firms had their lists of their mediators, and those lists were, one mediator described them as the tried and the trusted.
right.
So it's a question about new blood,
Yes,
and how that comes in.
yeah,
And I think that's a question for mediation providers like CEDR.
yes,
I think it's also a question for mediation users and law firms,
yes,
because they tell us they would like to see new mediators,
yes,
but if they didn't pick them.
yeah. Well, indeed. Indeed, and I think there is something to be learned here also from other professions who have a similar sort of issue. So sometimes you see professions requiring that a wider group of people is put forward. So if ordinarily you'd offer a list of 3, maybe you offer your normal 3 and somebody else, or something like that. But I'm sure there are all sorts of things we at the CMC are interested in doing around trying to increase that breadth of people who are considered. I suppose I would also just take heart from the statistic you mentioned earlier, Graham, around how much work goes to providers and how much goes to individual mediators, because actually there is quite a proportion which is still going to individual mediators rather than just providers.
Yes, work is going to individual mediators, but as I said, that tends to be when people have got established.
Yes,
and they're starting to establish relationships.
Yes.
And they're well known by particularly law firms, but that's what.
Exactly. Yeah.
So the next topic we asked people about was technology.
Yes.
And there's 2 heads to this.
Yep.
We've always, in the last 4 or 5 years, we've asked about the use of online. It's fair to say we never thought asking about online before the pandemic.
Sure.
But when we did ask about online during the pandemic and just after, unsurprisingly, it was a sudden explosion of use.
Right.
Because we had no choice.
Yes, absolutely.
So we went to sort of 80-90% online during that time.
Yes.
The first interesting statistic from the previous audit is that it did not all go away when in-person came back.
Yes.
So the online has certainly settled down, but there is still a reasonably good proportion of cases which are happening online.
Yeah, that's interesting.
The interesting development is the emergence of a hybrid.
Yes.
So that may be mediation where there are some people in person and some people online. Yeah. Personally, I find that quite difficult and clunky. It's not a great model.
Yes.
But sometimes you have to do it because there are some people, in other jurisdictions.
Yes.
And it's the only practical thing you can do.
Yeah.
The more useful technique we're seeing more common is, for example, pre-mediation contact.
Yes.
Of which there seems to be a trend to do more and more.
Yeah.
That is happening in online.
Yes.
Because it's not a quick call, but it's an hour or 2. Yes. But it's not worth travelling for a face-to-face meeting for that. So we're seeing this split, where the early calls are online, and then face-to-face for the mediation sessions themselves.
That's really interesting. I think that increase in pre-mediation meetings, online or otherwise, but is really helpful because it means that mediators go into their day much more prepared, and the parties are also much better prepared.
Yes.
And ready to make progress.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah. I think we can flush out. Well, there's either flush out the issues or slightly manage expectations as to what's going to happen on the day. Some of the procedural stuff and some of the there's no point turning up to mediation and just talking about what a good case you've got.
Yes.
So there's some coaching that I find you can do at that stage.
Absolutely.
Just to sort of have a more effective day when it comes.
Yeah. So overall, a positive in terms of the increased use of technology to that extent in mediation. Great.
And then we get to AI.
Yes.
So as I said before, everybody talks about every AI in every meeting on every topic.
Yes.
So we asked mediators, have you considered using AI?
Mm-hmm.
And have you actually used it?
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think about it?
Yes.
I have to say I was quite surprised at the figures. 64% of mediators said that they'd considered using AI.
Right.
Which, to be fair, is not. I'm not so surprised about that because if it's been talked about so much, they're bound to think about it.
Yes.
59% had said they've actually used it.
Ah.
That struck me as surprising.
Yes.
Until I started to dig in and say, so what are you actually using? What are you actually doing
with
AI?
Yeah.
And it's things like ChatGPT, like Otter for transcription of calls, Notebook LLM for reviewing documents and collating and summarizing, and sometimes comparing statements from one document to another.
Yes.
Most of it is at that level.
Yeah.
No one is actually sort of using AI at the sharp end.
Okay.
In terms of any actual engagement with clients.
Yes.
So a couple of people admitted to sort of using AI behind the scenes to sort of, can you suggest any ways forward here or any talking points or any ideas thing?
Yes.
No problem with that.
Yeah.
But that's about as far as the field has got at the moment. We asked people about their opinions about AI.
Yes.
And it's still pretty mixed.
Uh-huh. Okay.
It's mixed from it's coming, it's inevitable.
Yeah.
We've got to get with the program.
Yes.
Because we'll get overrun if we don't.
Yes.
To a lot of people who have particular technical, professional concerns, the most obvious one being confidentiality.
Of course.
How do you deal with the confidentiality issues and risks arising from uploading client documents into a system? Particularly since we're all told that these large learning models are still learning
quite
the material they're working at.
Quite.
So there's still debates to be had about that.
Yes.
Quite a few people raised that as an objection.
Yes.
There weren't many other objections, although a couple of people raised things like, actually, my clients are paying me to be the mediator. Mm-hmm. They're not paying me to be the front man for technology.
Yes.
Was a concern for some.
Yes.
And that then morphed into an issue about transparency.
Yes.
As to whether one should be transparent to clients, and this is what you're doing.
Yeah.
So there's still debate to be had, I think. About
yes, and quite rightly and quite fairly, I think. It's interesting, isn't it? I mean, it sounds as though that the human side of mediation isn't yet an area where the mediators you surveyed are interested in using AI quite as much, but in the sort of administrative and practical end, just thinking about the note taking and those sorts of things, perhaps producing chronologies, that feels a bit more manageable. It's probably also worth reflecting on the recent case law that's come out of the courts, where barristers or other lawyers have advertently or inadvertently apparently used some forms and come out with something quite inaccurate in terms of production of case law and case law that doesn't exist. So I think there are areas where mediators will want to be really careful actually about what it is they're getting by way of results. For what it's worth, my own view is that the use of AI is a really good thing if it makes us more efficient, but we must always have an eye on what it is that's being produced and how we do it.
We have to still be responsible for quality.
Exactly.
And therefore that means that you have to at least be carefully checking whatever output you're getting from AI.
Exactly. And I think thinking about these things in terms of CMC support for mediators and so on, it seems to me quite important that we look in the future at things like supporting mediators who are trying to work out, is it sensible to upload documents to an AI platform and get some data back? How do you deal with that in terms of transparency in your contracts and all of those sorts of things?
I think the field is going to need to develop some standards as to what we can do and what not to do.
Exactly.
That will come.
Exactly. Yes, it's firmly on our agenda.
Yeah. The final headline figure that we always ask,
that
try to get to out of the mediation audit, is about the value of mediation to society in terms of savings.
Yeah.
Sort of the headline statistic. Obviously, there was a lot of extrapolation that's gone on from survey results to get to this thing.
Yeah.
However, and I'm going to exclude the sort of the impact of mega cases, because there's always one or two mega cases every year that go through a system which would distort. So I'm not including those in my calculation.
Yes.
The total value at issue in cases mediated each year in England and Wales, about 20 billion a year.
Gosh, it's extraordinary.
How much does the mediation profession save from doing that work? And by save, I mean wasted time, wasted management costs, distraction, inefficiency.
Yes.
And legal fees.
Yes.
Although, frankly, legal fees is a relatively small proportion of that big bucket.
Yes.
5.9 billion
Gosh.
a year.
Also extraordinary.
So it's up significantly.
Yeah.
In contrast, total fee income of the profession as a whole, probably about 65 million at the moment.
Right.
You'd estimate.
Yeah.
So, 65 million pounds spent, 5.9 billion value delivered. That's a 90-to-1 return on investment for society.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely.
That's pretty good.
Absolutely. And these figures are really helpful because we know that mediation delivers a measurable financial outcome like this. And we know that there are those wider societal or relationship improvements, which are actually a bit harder to quantify properly. But the value in having statistics like this is that when we have conversations with government or with our parties, when we're mediating or when we're trying to encourage the use of mediation, this is a concrete way of demonstrating that actually there is some real value to be achieved, and that is already being achieved.
Yeah. So, to summarise.
Yes.
Good news first.
Yep.
We're at record levels of activity.
Yes. Wonderful.
Settlement rates remain strong.
Yeah.
As you say, there's an increasing recognition of the value that mediation can deliver across a wide range of societal issues. And online communication has now got a permanent place in the process. It wasn't just a passing fad. It's locked in now. So we're starting to make best use of some technology.
Yes.
Areas we still need to work on. As we discussed, there's a lot of talk about AI, but we still need to get answers to a lot of very important questions and get some more guidance out there.
Yes.
I think we also need to do more work to make sure that our profession reflects the society that we're trying to serve. So there are still issues about diversity.
Yeah.
And by that, I mean ethnic diversity. I also mean age diversity.
Absolutely.
There's much more that we can do in that area.
Absolutely.
But
yeah. And I would just reflect, Graham, that it's really helpful to have this growing body of data. The fact that it's been such long-standing data is very helpful. I didn't say so earlier, but actually when we were putting together our intervention in Churchill, we relied very heavily on the data that had come through the previous audits up until that point. So it was very helpful to have that in our joint intervention. And it continues to be very helpful in the conversations that we're having with government, etc. And I know that I and many others will cite statistics as to how successful mediation is in our mediations. So I think this is a very helpful piece of data to have.